This is the Bold City Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Bold City Podcast. I'm Jason Masters, the lead pastor of Bold City Church. Listen, really quickly, I want to remind you guys, you can find our podcast literally on any podcast platform, Spotify, iTunes. You can find it on YouTube. We'd love for you to go and subscribe if you're not already subscribing. And if you love the content, please hit the like button. And if you know someone that could glean something from it, feel free to share. And so today I got my friend Logan Cooke with me. He is the punter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Thank you for hanging out, Logan.
Man, yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so I met Logan at a chapel service. I get to come in. My buddy Mo brings me in to do a chapel maybe once a year for the Jags. And Logan it really loves the Lord, so I appreciate that. It's genuine faith, loves to hunt, and has an incredible family, and is a captain on our beloved Jags. So, man, thanks for being a great example for our community, and thanks for loving Jesus most importantly. And so I thought it'd be great that for our people at Bold City Church and whoever listens to this to really just kind of get to know you in a deeper level, kind of hear your story, your faith journey, what it's like to be in NFL, what it's like to play for the Jags right now, which is pretty incredible, and to be a captain on that team. So, man, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you met Jesus and how you've grown in your faith?
Yeah, so appreciate you having me, dude. This is awesome. But I've done, like I told you before, I've done some podcasts with a few with football, several with hunting, and so now to be able to talk about my faith on here is pretty cool too. So it's cool what you're doing. But no, so I'm from South Mississippi, born and raised. I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesdays. You know, my dad he led the music at our church, so I was there all the time. And,
can you sing?
I can sing. I don't know if I sing well, but I do sing in the shower and in the truck. But no, I don't know if I'm very musically gifted. But yeah, so I had awesome parents. They raised me in the church, and honestly, my furthest memories of knowing who Jesus was just came from probably as far back as I can even remember and my mind can comprehend. So that was great job on their part to raise me that way. And just knowing who Jesus was. I became a believer when I was 9, and that was, I feel like you hear a lot of, faith stories from whenever they got saved because it was pushed on them when they were young or at a summer camp or at Bible school, and that really wasn't mine. I remember we used to have a youth rally and a kids rally at my high school, and youth rally was, I think, 7th through 12th grade, and kids rally was like at 2nd grade through 6th grade. So our kids rally we went to, and I remember the person who was speaking kind of got to an invitation part of his message. And I remember I felt like I had no idea what it was. I mean, I'm 9 years old, so there was no there was no faking it or whatever. But I just had the biggest just tug at my heart. And I just started crying as a 9-year-old kid who just heard a story about who Jesus was in a way I guess I'd never comprehended it. And that was a very eye-opening experience for me, knowing that, look, I believe in Jesus. I know who he is, but, like, I've never actually professed my faith and made it public, from that standpoint. But just growing up in the church, like, I had always believed in Jesus, and I didn't really know there was, I guess I was so young, I never really comprehended that there was another step, right? And so for me, I actually stayed in my chair then, and it bugged me for the next 2 or 3 days. It was just killing me knowing that I should have got up and gone up there and told the guy who was speaking how I felt and that I wanted to get saved. And then he ended up he kept speaking to me every night. And this is a 9-year-old kid too. This isn't a high school kid who actually understands things. I just knew who Jesus was, and I knew that I wanted to let people know that I knew him and trusted him. And so I ended up talking to my dad on Saturday night, and he was like, "Well, look, like, this is all you. Like, if you feel this way, like tomorrow morning at church, like, let me know." And so then it got to the invitation part of my small Southern Baptist church congregation, and probably 100 people there, and we sat on the front row because it's a small church. Everybody has their own pew, and that's where my family sat. And I remember as soon as the invitation part hit, it was like as soon as Miss Janice hit that was our pianist, hit those chords on the piano, just instant tears. And so that was I grabbed my dad and like yanked him. We went to the pasture, and that was whenever I got saved as a 9-year-old kid. So
Wow.
it was definitely real, and that was the first actual, I guess, Jesus encounter I'd had, and encounter with the Spirit. So yeah, fast forward, I led FCA. I was the president of our FCA group in high school. I guess I was always like that guy. I mean, I guess you know what I'm saying. And I was always the guy that, you know, at football, whenever we were about to eat pregame meal, like, hey, Logan, pray. Like, I was always that guy. And it wasn't really, I think it was just kind of given to me from being the guy who prayed at lunch and with friends. I went to a good high school that we actually had on Monday mornings. We actually had chapel and stuff. But
That's awesome.
I'm rambling a lot. But anyway, so
That's what we're here for. You're
so,
good, bro.
So whenever I guess through high school, I feel like when I look back now, I was just very focused on like me as far as let me keep my steps in line instead of like let people know why I'm trying to keep my steps in line. So when I got to college, it wasn't until then that I actually found kind of a different relationship. Not that my first relationship with Christ wasn't real or wasn't good, but
Sure.
I kind of branched out and realized, hey, I'm not in small town Mississippi anymore. Like, I actually was still in a small town in Mississippi, but getting to college and being around other people with different cultures
What
and
do you
different
call
beliefs.
it? Stark Vegas?
Stark Vegas, baby, yeah. Starkville's not big at all, but it's definitely bigger than the town I grew up in.
Sure.
But no, so I got to Starkville, Mississippi State, and that was kind of when I first found more of a, and it wasn't instantly. There was definitely a couple years of, hey, now being a Christian isn't like super popular in this setting, right? Which I went to a private school, Christian school, and all my friends believed how I believed. I mean, they call it the Bible Belt where I grew up. So whenever I got out of that setting, that's when I first had those awkward feelings of being a believer to an extent. And so I had to find I had to grow in my relationship with Christ in college. And there was a couple years of that awkwardness, where I hadn't grown. And but that's, I think when I got to college, I definitely didn't get saved again, but I definitely grew my relationship in college with Jesus, and that's kind of, it opened my eyes up to hey, I need to let people know why I feel this way, and that's kind of where we're at now, and being a captain on the Jags, that's incredible. It was definitely, I didn't really see that coming, but it's kind of cool when you don't see that part coming, and then the team gets to vote on it. But no, it's we love when you come to chapel, dude, and I know last year there was a real, you were real up there, and that was cool. And that's what I just want to thank you for being real,
Dude, I appreciate
in that chapel.
that.
And I know me and you talked about that after it, but no, that was definitely cool. And I think that's something that a lot of people, especially Christians, do. And then I'll let you talk. I'm really rolling here, but is like the fake you's just fine, right? And if we're real with each other, I think that's kind of where I opened up too when I got to college. Was in high school, I had to be this guy who nothing went wrong, So to be able to be transparent, and open, and real is cool.
Yeah, I think God uses our vulnerability, man, and I think we need it. I think we've all lived in a culture that's been fake for way too long, man, and people need to know. I think kind of hearing your story, which is incredible. One, man, I want to celebrate parents that are incredibly godly parents, and I know you have a baby and a baby on the way, right? And I'm running 4 deep, and when you were telling the story about, how you included your dad on that, I was thinking about both my girls when they were 5. So they're 9 and 7 now. Both of them, when they were 5, came and got Tiffany and I and said, man, we're ready. I take that back because she's going to correct me. JC at 5 got me. She didn't get Tiffany. We were actually on the way back from Tennessee doing a marriage retreat with our church, and I was on Interstate 16 close to Statesboro, and Tiffany was ahead of us in another car. JC's in the back of my truck. She goes, Daddy, I think I'm ready to give Jesus my life. I pulled over,
That's
dude.
awesome.
On the middle of 16, altar calls, just the evangelist in me. I was like, boom. Say, hey, we got to call your mom and tell her. And we pulled up to the gas station. Tiff pulled over and was at the gas station. She's like, "You couldn't wait for me?" I said, "Evangelists don't wait.
There you go.
When it's hot, it's hot. You got to get it." I didn't want her to change her mind. But at 5, Maylee came to us as well. But so when you were telling the story about your dad, I was just thinking about how it felt when my kids came and were like, "Hey, I'm ready," and to have that conversation. But dude, I'm thinking like you're gonna get that soon.
Yeah.
You're gonna get that and that's the legacy. So the seed that your parents sowed in you, yeah, your kids are gonna go to church. They're gonna hear the word. They're growing up in a household where they're hearing and seeing a demonstration of the love of God, and man, that's incredible. I think the reason why I'm harping on this, I think people should. It's a big thing for me. I would rather moms and dads lead their kids to Jesus than bring them to church so that I could lead them to Jesus.
Right. That's good.
I want them to come to church and I want them to be there, but man, it means a lot to me to see a dad come up and go, "Dude, I led my kids to the Lord this week."
Yep.
Like, dude, that's them. Like that's their story, and that's incredible. And it's my prayer that you get to experience that with yours.
Oh man,
and
we pray for it every day. I mean, that's just every night before we go to bed. That's we pray with him, and that's the way we always end it. That he'll come know him one day. And
how old's your boy?
At 19 months.
19 months. Yeah.
So then we have another one coming mid-July. So it's and I think it comes from it's a generational thing, right? I mean, I was blessed enough to my grandfather was a preacher. My dad
awesome.
is in the ministry as well.
Music ministry, yeah.
Right. So to be able to grow up in that was a blessing, and I haven't seen the other side of it, right? I haven't seen the side where their parents weren't in church
right.
and weren't involved, and so and my wife was raised the same way. So it's I can't speak to someone who's in that situation,
Yeah.
But all I can say is break the cycle, right? I mean,
exactly.
I have several buddies who definitely broke the cycle or struggled to break the cycle for a while, and I didn't know what to tell them, right? I'm like, look, this is between you and God. I have no idea because I haven't been there,
Right.
But yeah, parent, man, they were definitely a blessing.
I think sometimes too, because I grew up in without a ton of consistency in my home, living with other people. I didn't grow up going to church, none of that stuff, right? So I'm the other side of it. But I think sometimes we'll over elevate this side, like, oh wow, look at what's overcome, and we'll overlook what, man, that's a blessing. Like that's still like for your parents, your grandparents to be in ministry. I'm in ministry. I understand the struggle and the difficulty of it, and then your parents to be in it too, serving. Like, dude, that's something that should be admired as well.
For sure.
Like my kids are they're gonna have a similar story to you, right? But I didn't have that story. So we're 100%. If you don't grow up in a Christian household, it's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Like you can do it. You just got to dig in. I also thought about this when you were talking too, the maturing of your faith and just that taking some ownership and you said you were in church 3 times a week. You went to a Christian school, SCA president. You're saturated with it, which is incredible, which was probably preparing you for Stark Vegas. All right. But you felt when you got to college, like it came with some difficulties, but probably explosive growth because now you're really taking ownership and now you're not overly saturated with it. You choose it now.
Right. That's it.
So what's maybe some things you noticed, maybe increase in scripture reading, like things coming alive to you, your prayer life or something? What's some things that really exploded when, for you personally, with your walk with Christ, whenever you got to that season?
Yeah, so I think one, church isn't the fix all, right? But church does surround you with the right people, and I firmly believe that you can say you're a believer and you can say that and you can read your Bible more than I do, but if you're not surrounding yourself with the right people, you're going to struggle. And I've heard people say that well, I don't have to go to church to believe in Jesus or to go to heaven, and you are right, but if you want to reach your full potential as a believer and as a servant, like you have to put yourself in those situations. So for me in college, that was, hey, right off the rip, let's find a church, right? And luckily, I mean, it's 3 hours from my hometown, so my sister had already gone to Mississippi State, so she had a church, so that's kind of how I got plugged in there. But with all that being said, what I said earlier, like, it wasn't easy. Like, I still struggle with the same college stuff every college kid struggles with, right?
Sure.
So there were definitely those situations as well, but it all came back to my roots, and it all came back to, look, I was raised this way. I know this is the right way, and I know that I have to surround myself with the right people. So when it was all said and done, my senior year of college, I'd built a great friend group around me that was going to keep me accountable and that I could, be honest with and be real with. And I think that if someone's going to college or if someone is moving out of their comfortable setting, which mine was my hometown, you have to immediately make your first priority to put yourself around good people, because bad people with a good person can turn that good person into something they don't want to be.
Yeah, Proverbs talks about that, Yeah, you're right. And so, you need the tribe, man. You need a pack. I actually preached on this in our church. The pack protects. It really does. And isolation, man, like, I've heard that a million times. I don't need to go to church. I don't need to be in a small group. I don't need church is full of hypocrites, and my go-to is one more ain't gonna hurt it,
Yep.
and so I've heard all that stuff, but you're absolutely right. You need a pack. You need a crew to walk through life with. It brings accountability, but here's a major thing I think too that we often overlook. It brings encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, sometimes it gets really freaking hard, and we need some people to encourage us and be with us. And encouragement means to literally give courage away, because we don't have it. Like, I know for me, like, I went to a Christian college, so I kind of, like, I did the exact opposite of you. I didn't grow up in church. I didn't go to a Christian high school, any of that. And then I gave my life to the Lord. And then I ended up at a Christian college. Like, we had a curfew when I got there.
Oh, wow.
I was like, bro, I'm 20-something years old with, like, hey, you got to be in at 11. When I first got there, I was like, I didn't even have a curfew when I was 13, And I found academics wasn't something easy for me. But, man, I found a pack in college that encouraged me. Dude, I used to go, I went to school in Minnesota, so in the Twin Cities. And it's just saturated with colleges and tons of good churches. But, dude, I have friends from all over the country, kind of probably like you when you play college ball.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I went to Messianic Jewish services. I went to all kind of different, like, it became like this cool thing. Like, we were just going to church services everywhere. And it brought encouragement and accountability. And because I was with these people and because I struggled when I first got there, dude. I was about to flunk out, and I was homesick.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you're talking 19 hours away from home. I was like, hey, this sucks. I mean, game 3 of our season, I break my ribs. I mean, I got this huge knot, so I don't even want anybody touching me. I was like, this is getting terrible. And dude, I found through teammates, man, I found a crew that just constantly encouraged me. And gave me a place to call home, really, with them. I think that's huge, and you got to choose that. Yep. And that's exactly what you said you did. And so, as you chose that crew, the accountability, your people, found your pack, you noticed, with them, man, things just started popping with you and God, really, right?
Yeah.
And so. You take ownership of your faith at Mississippi State, you're really going and growing with God, and then you end up in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, and I'll go back to kind of where you were at, talking about my pack, how you mentioned it. But whenever I actually met my wife now, I met her senior year of college, and we actually timing wasn't right. We both had separate relationships that had just ended, and we met, and then I joke with her all the time. She cut me off and went back to her other relationship. So
dang.
Yeah, but she'll
highlight that, fellas, for the podcast in case she watches it.
She'll listen to this one too. But years later, our paths crossed again, and it wasn't until we actually started dating that I actually my faith grew even more, right? Like I had kind of got past that awkwardness, right, in college of being a believer in certain different settings that I'd never been a believer in, and junior senior year that I felt way more confident in my faith and who I was, right? But it wasn't until I met her that the way she loved people, like Christ loves people, then I grew more in my faith as well, because she taught me how to love people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't from a standpoint of, she came in and was my professor in loving people, but it was like the way you watched her. And that was a ministry in itself, and that kind of also attests to how people see Jesus through you, right? She has this saying that you might be the only Jesus that someone ever sees.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I'm about to tear up saying that, but like, that's real, right? There's so many people that, whether you're walking down the street and see a homeless guy, or, someone's, I don't know, someone don't have enough money at the gas station, like little things like that are things that they might not see Jesus through you, but they see some love that they've never seen through someone else. So that was another way I grew, was whenever I met her and saw the way she loved people and treated people. And, just as little as someone pull out in front of me on the road and me honk at them, and she looks at me with the most disappointed look ever. And it's just like, oh man, like I shouldn't do that, So now if someone don't go at a red light, I sit there for 5 minutes until they finally see the green light,
Yeah, that's awesome. So even your college relationship, God used that was part of your pack to inspire and encourage you. I agree with you too about something you said, because I met my wife when she was serving in youth ministry, and there's something super attractive about a girl who really loves the Lord and is serving people. And so that's a plug for all you single fellas, like find you a girl that demonstrates the love of Christ by serving people. So she played a role in that. How long you guys been married?
Oh boy.
My bad, bro.
Don't do this to me. Come on. No, it's 3 years going on 4 years now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And so she was at Mississippi State as well?
Yeah, so she didn't go to Mississippi State, but there's a community college up there in Starkville.
Okay, so she was in Starkville.
Right, so she was there. She was working. She was a waitress at a steakhouse the first time I ever saw her. So she always jokes that she wasn't looking, but she could tell you what I ordered today. So she knows.
This is awesome, man. I love this. And so you guys started dating towards the end of your college days?
So that's kind of whenever we met and kind of hung out a lot, and then it just wasn't our time. And it sucks because like I wish she was there for certain parts of my life, and I wish I was there for certain parts of her life, but it wasn't meant to be, right? God's time is perfect. For some reason, we weren't meant to be then.
Sure.
And so it went to my rookie year here that we actually started dating, and or I guess the end of my rookie season, but yeah, so we dated for 7 months, and we're engaged for 6 months, and
that's it.
Yep.
When you go.
I'm telling you, ain't no way.
I mess with people all the time for dragging them things out. Man, we're gonna be engaged for 2 years and we're gonna get married. But what you waiting for?
Exactly.
If you go. Anyway, don't get me on that. And so you come, you move to Jacksonville, rookie season, in a serious relationship. And what year was? How were we your rookie year? I can't remember.
So that was 18. So that was the year after they went to the AFC Championship. So there was a high that we were riding whenever I got here, and also I was just a rookie trying to figure life out. Right. I didn't want to play in the league. That was never my goal. I wanted to play SEC football, and I did. And it was kind of funny. God's hilarious sometimes. But I played in the Tax Slayer Bowl my senior year.
Yeah,
so the last game I ever played in college was here. And
who'd you guys play in that? Do you remember?
Louisville.
Yep.
And we won. We didn't have a head coach. That was the year Dan Mullen had got hired at Florida. So he left before the bowl game and went to Florida. And so yeah, that was Lamar's senior year too as well.
That's right.
But no, so it was funny. I remember shanking a punt, and it was the first punt of the game. I kicked the turf somehow and shanked this punt, and but we ended up winning, and I was just kind of, we get in the car, and I rode home with my parents from there, and I was telling my dad, like, I'm done, like, enjoyed it, like, that was awesome, fun career, played 4 years in the SEC, and he was just kind of like, I don't think I'd, like, rule out playing in the league, whatever, and I was just like, all right, well, I'll try. And what happens mostly with specialists, long snappers, kickers, punters, is it takes a while to get in the league because there's only 32 of them, right? So running backs have 3 to 4 running backs, actually on a 53-man roster, and even going to the camp, they might have 6. So like for our position, I mean, you might have like Adam Vinatieri's play for 20-something years, so Indy's never looking for a kicker, right? So there's only 6 to 7, maybe 8 spots a year for a punter, so it's kind of like it takes a few years to actually get your foot in the door. And I mean, there's several great punters and kickers on the street now that just haven't got their foot in the right opportunity. So for me, I was like, all right, I'll try it 1 year. I'll work out, go to workouts, whatever. And if I don't make it, then I'm going to work. And he was like, all right, well, just and he wasn't pushing me. He was just like, hey, just know once this door's closed, like you can't reopen it. And so I ended up, working out, got an agent, did the whole thing, got drafted, and which was kind of mind-blowing. I mean, I didn't think I belonged there. And so, so when I got here, I was just trying not to get cut. I mean, every day I was just like, don't get cut today. And I ended up first few games, struggled, just kind of getting in the groove. And actually, Carson Tinker was my snapper at the time. Yeah. And
Alabama guy, right?
Yeah, great dude. And I was stressing. It was going into week 4, so we played 3 games, and all 3 of my games were just horrible. But we were winning, so it was kind of like everyone's kind of overlooking, the bad punts. And but going into week 4, there was I think 3 or 4 punters walking. And the way it works, like I'm sure you might know this, but people listening might not. Every team only has 1 punter, 1 kicker, 1 long snapper, but they can bring people in to work out during the week, right? And because there's just not enough space to have backups in those positions.
Right,
and it's only 53. Yep. And so as we're walking into the locker room, down this long hallway after practice one day on Wednesday, there was like 3 or 4 punters walking out with the special teams coach to go work out, pretty much a tryout, right? So I was just like I was in my head. I told Carson, I was like, dude, like they're cutting me. He was like, bro, they might. I ain't gonna lie to you. He's like, but
thanks, Carson.
Yeah, he was like, you're gonna be here as long as you're supposed to be here. Whether that's 1 more day or whether that's 10 more years, like it's already written. So like, stop stressing. And that honestly, I mean, it sounds dumb, but like that helped me. And week 4, I remember the first punt of the game, we were playing the Jets. I'll never forget it. This was a huge faith moment for me too, because, I mean, on all honesty, I never struggled like in my life with I guess feeling good enough for somebody. I mean, I was quarterback for a while in high school, or my whole life until high school. I played receiver, and I was, played basketball, baseball, all this stuff, and I'd never really been not good enough for something.
Yeah, and performance has always been on par.
Right, exactly. So it was like, whenever I got here and had that struggle, like it was tough because I'd never been in that, my game, golf term, my game was in shambles. It was tough. And so to be able to have, that first punt of the game against the Jets, I remember it just went up, and it was the prettiest spiral, and I remember just the biggest weight was just lifted off of me. And it was like God was like, all right, now you can go, know. So so it's just been a blessing ever since. And
people don't understand the artwork that is too to get that thing to turn over like that.
Oh
man.
Yeah, there's a lot goes into it. I've learned getting in the league and watching some of these better punters. I mean, it's definitely an art. But.
Yeah, I love though. Like, man, all that pressure being on you. I don't love the pressure being on you, but I love that as soon as you face adversity, let that thing ride.
Yeah.
Like literally on the field, you felt the weight.
I mean, I'm telling you, I literally felt it come off, and it was just the biggest sense of peace. But yeah. And
so your motto's been "Don't get cut today."
Yeah.
And here we are 6 years later.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. Man, what's it been like to be in this city and to play for this organization?
It's awesome. It's kind of, I tell people all the time, it's like a small town college feel. It's obviously Jacksonville's like one of the biggest cities in the United States.
11th biggest.
Like square mileage, whatever it is. But like,
oh, it's definitely the biggest in the world by square mileage,
right,
and the 11th by population. Yeah. I saw an article last week.
So like, it's not small, but like, once you get away from the downtown area and you go north, east, even west, towards Middleburg and stuff, and south, like it's real small town feel.
Sure.
Like, you go to Jack's Beach, and like even like playing for the Jags is cool, but it's not like the coolest thing in the world. Like I just buddies that's played in other places like New York and Green Bay. Like you go out in those markets and it's like, oh my gosh, you play for the Giants, or oh my gosh, you play for the Packers. Like here it's like, all right, play for the Jags, sweet dude. Like what you want to eat? Like like it's not. But I love that. Like it's such a small town feel, and it's it's a smaller market for sure when you look around the league at other markets, but it's cool. And to be able to win last year like we did, and I ain't gonna lie, it was tough. Like,
Oh yeah.
the years before, I mean, I know 17, I think was a good year before I got here, but like my previous 4 years before last season, I mean, it was tough, and it was tough to go out in public and if someone did know you, it was like, hey, like, what are we doing, man? Like, like, this city needs this, and it was always tough because, one, I'm the punter, like I'm trying, I don't know,
I'm
but,
working more than I'm supposed to these 4 years.
but no, this year to be able to like honestly see the city rally, and like those last couple night games we had, Tennessee and the Chargers, like, I mean, the city was on fire. I mean, it was awesome, and it was so much fun, and it brought so much peace and so much joy to people. And yeah, I mean, it was fun, and I hope that we can keep that train rolling.
Bro, I gotta tell you a funny story. So the Chargers game, right? So I was in Orlando. I had a national flag football tournament that I was playing in, and I was with Tiffany. So we were at an L house with my teammates eating zingers or whatever, those wing things at L house. We're all hanging out. Dude, we're freaking pumped, right? We're about to smoke the Chargers, and then halftime. And we have our baby with us, right? So we have Brecklin. She's little and just over a year old at this time. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's go take the baby back to the hotel.
Tough.
So I got back to the hotel, and I was like, okay, we're putting it on. Dude, I got so pumped. You'll be excited about this, and I'm not lying. I'll give you the picture, Mike, so you can put it on the podcast. Dude, I grabbed my football. I think I might have texted Pastor Randy this. I got so pumped when we won that game. I punted it in the hotel room, and dude, it put a huge football print on the roof.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
no lie, it was like 3 inches away from the sprinkler
Dear.
in that Marriott. And if I'd have hit that thing, I'd have shut that Marriott down that day. But I felt like I was 20 years old playing college football again.
Yeah.
I was so pumped. I'm telling you, this year was. You could feel it this past year.
Yeah, halftime of that game was tough, right? I mean, it was one. I mean, it's no surprise that like I'm not very involved in the score of the game, right? And you can say like, no, you are, but like I get my role,
Right.
But whatever those guys did, I mean, in that halftime setting, like I was sitting over there in the corner. I mean, halftime's short in the NFL, so pretty much I go in, eat a PBJ, pound a Gatorade, and take off, But just sitting there was tough. And I'm not around the offensive group or defensive group. I'm just kind of right by the door because we go right back out and warm up again.
You're one of the first ones out.
Right,
yeah.
right. But just sitting over there with my snapper and kicker, we were just like, no one really said anything. But in my head, like I'm just thinking like, and this is real. Again, like this is,
no
this
doubt.
is real. But you're just sitting there like, well, I guess I'll pack tomorrow, and we got a farm back home in Mississippi, and I'm like, well, I'll catch the last couple of days of duck season, and this kind of thing, and because that's real thoughts, right?
No doubt.
And then you come out and we score and we score and we score, and
And
it's
we're
like
stopping them.
whatever those guys did. I mean that takes.
Dude, Trevor, just the flip the switch,
Yep.
bro. Yeah,
That was cool.
and Waffle House was needed after that, no doubt.
yeah.
Because you were with them, weren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Well,
That's our go-to now. Maylee and I, my 7-year-old, she loves Waffle House. My wife's like, no, we're not eating Waffle
oh,
House.
I love Waffle House, man.
It's the glory of the Lord, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, that was incredible. And I tell you, even another one. So I did the chapel. I think it was right before the Dallas game. But like even the Dallas game, bro, that was nuts. Just the back half of that season. I think there's a lot. If you look at that, and some people might not be sports people, and so they might not get this. But one, your season's really long compared to any other season. I mean, it's just incredibly long. And super physical. I mean, it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. But man, mentally, like what goes into preparing for those games and then a season like that, but to just be so close so often and then just keep fighting is like a true Rocky moment.
Yeah.
I felt like for the team, like just not giving up,
Yeah,
keep showing up.
I think it got to. I think we might have had like 5 games left, or maybe 6, and no one ever said it. At least, like, no coaches said it, but it was kind of known that we had to win every game if we wanted to go to the playoffs. And so we'd win one, and then Coach Peterson never said like, hey, if we want to go to the playoffs, we got to win out,
Yeah.
But it was just known. So it was like a very quietly known thing throughout the locker room that, if we want to keep playing, like, we got to keep winning, right? And there were like Dallas, there were some close games, and it was games that you wouldn't think would mean anything, but when you go look at, I don't get it, but all the whatever, who beat who by whatever, like we had to win out, and so to be able to win, I think we ended up winning like the last 7, like to go to the playoffs. I mean, that was
incredible.
Cool. Yeah,
it's super cool, and people don't know the conversations and the prep and all that. So to hear, hey, Coach Doug's not like running us through the ringer, like it's a must win, like that shows like team unity, like people get it, and which means people wanted to be there.
Right, and he would always, I remember every Saturday night, he would always joke. Once it got closer to like, the last 3 or 4 games we had to win, he would joke like, "Hey, it's a must win," and then everybody kind of laughed like, "Yeah, really, thanks."
And, we get it.
Yeah, but yeah, it was never like a seriously harped on thing. But I think that's kind of what was cool about the way Coach Peterson handled everything, is it was all low key. Even when we went on a few game losing streak early, it was all like, all right, fine, like everyone calm down, which is something that in the past we haven't had that. So that was nice.
Dude, I think something we should talk about as we get ready to land the plane too is like, a lot of people don't see in our city is just the face side of the team. And so I think for the past, I think it's 5 years, the year we went to the AFC game, so the year before you came when you were still at Mississippi State, that was my first time doing chapel. That was a pretty incredible chapel service because it was like a really good turnout. Ramsey, Jalen was with the team. It's just a lot of the big guys were there and some coaches and stuff. Not the head coach, but some position coaches. That was pretty incredible. Well, the next 3 or 4 years kind of felt like going to the dentist, you know, as far as chapel. I remember not this past year, Dallas was pretty incredible chapel, which is what I want to kind of get to. But I remember doing Seattle, and it was like you, Tyler, and Campbell. And I was like,
it's tough, man.
I was like, so I stayed up till midnight to Zoom with you guys, and it's like, man, it's 3 guys. But I did it, and I love the fact that like 3 or 4 of you showed up. But then fast forward to this past season, there's like 30-something guys in there. Coach Doug's in there. Like, you guys, people don't see this. You guys have been preparing all week. You've got playbooks, you got notes, you got film to go over. But a bunch of you were like in there keeping notes too. And I'm like, dude, this is real. People need to know this, like, about the team. Like, there's like a real hunger within that team for the presence of God. And it's big because I've always called you guys gatekeepers for the city, because you saw it this past season. You've been here long enough to know this is your city too now. But like when you guys are on, like, it shifts the city, man. And to know that probably 40% of the team is at chapel too, is what it looked like. Like, that should encourage the people of faith in our city greatly. And Coach Doug was a shout down man when I was there. He's in the back, nodding his head, so down to earth, so real. Can you kind of talk about not only him, but just the face side of the team?
Yeah. I mean, it all starts with him, right? I mean, he's the general, and that's something, like, obviously you have an owner GM, but when you really get down to it in the locker room, like, it starts with him. And and that's something that it doesn't have to do with coaching. I'll be honest, like, I feel like a head coach in the NFL, I mean, it's probably just like coaching LeBron, like, what are you gonna coach him? So but most head coaches, like, not that he doesn't know ball, I mean, he knows ball more than anybody in that facility, but like, the presence you have as a head coach, right? It's like a father in a home. I mean, we're like all his kids running around, So the way he leads that whole facility is honestly a depiction of how the season goes. I mean, here's the thing: NFL, every team has great players, right? Every team has good coaches, but it all starts with, like you said, chapel. Like, I'm not saying that the team don't have a good chapel, like they're not going to have a good season. But if a team isn't close, if a team isn't tight knit, they're not. Every Super Bowl team, I promise you, go ask them like how their team camaraderie was, and it was great. This is the first year in my 6 years here that I've seen a chapel that big, or I've seen, us playing cards on Saturday night, or playing board games during camp before everybody goes to bed like that. We got a ping pong table back, so that's awesome. And so like guys are like hanging out, and guys are coming to chapel, and guys are coming to Bible study, and that's cool, and honestly it all starts with Coach Peterson. I mean, they have a big Bible study with the coaches, and he's just like, he has a very calming presence,
Yeah, he does.
And I think the main job of like his position in the NFL is to keep that team tight and to keep the ship just running,
Yeah.
And he does a great job at that.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. And shout out to Mo too. Mo Williams just does.
Yeah.
I think he's a great man, and he does a great job being the chaplain for you guys. And when I saw the ping pong table come back, man, I was like, praise God, man.
Man, we pushed that one hard. We did. We pushed it pretty hard.
I've seen some of the videos too. It looks like it's super competitive sometimes.
Oh yeah, very competitive. There's a broken paddle now on the that's taped up behind it on the wall that says, insert player's name. I ain't gonna say it. Who broke the paddle and the date of the paddle losing its life. So so it gets very competitive in there.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Well, I have, man, I've enjoyed having you on, man. I'm glad our people get to hear from you, and I know a lot of people in our church love you and love the team, and so I'm sure they're going to enjoy this. But would you do me a favor, man? Would you close us out in prayer? Man, just however the Lord leads you. Just pray for people, pray for whatever you feel led to pray for.
God, thank you for today. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for Bold City Church. I pray you just bless them. God, I pray you bless Pastor Jason, Lord, and everything he's doing. God, here, I just thank you for the city. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to be a part of this city for as long as I'm here, Lord. And I just thank you so much for the people you put in my life here. And thank you for these people here. And God, I pray you just bless someone through this podcast. God, I pray someone can come to know you and build a relationship with you through it. And I pray you just bless this church and the city. Amen.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bold City Podcast. To learn more about us, visit us at boldcity.church or download the Bold City Church app. To support this ministry and help us continue to reach people all around the world, visit boldcity.church/give.